to Real Estate Talk with your host, Ken Sax. This show is created for you, the consumer. Our goal is to empower you with information and education, thereby giving you the tools needed to make informed decisions when it comes to real estate. Real Estate Talk is brought to you by SpokaneHouseHunter.com. Now, here's your host, Ken Sax.
Well, welcome, folks. Welcome to Real Estate Talks, and as always, I am your host, Ken Sax. And my guest today, I'd like to introduce you to Grace Chiquette with Stimulus Realty. Grace, hello.
Hello.
Thank
Hi,
you for
Ken.
being here.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a longtime realtor, a second generation, so kind of like Denise Fox,
Okay.
where Denise's mom was in real estate. Well, my mom was in real estate, and we were in Arizona, actually, at the time that I became pregnant with my twins. I was in broadcasting.
Okay.
And when I became pregnant with my twins, I had a little 5-year-old daughter, and my mom said, she had been in real estate a long time at Coldwell Banker. And she was like, I have this subdivision, and you would be great in real estate. Your enthusiasm and your passion for life and people, you'd be great.
You do have a little bit of passion.
I have a purposeful passion,
Yes.
And so I ended up studying while I was pregnant with the twins, and then ended up getting into real estate, and I love it. I love it. For the first 3 years, I don't think I said too many words. My mom was the leader,
Okay.
and I was just the spark that would start the engine. And I learned so much that way, and so I feel I had a wonderful base education, and that's so important. And learned all the proper ways to communicate and to care and to have a commitment
Good.
to the profession. And so that's just my beginnings. And then I've just expanded beyond that. I moved up here in 2004. And at that point in time, Tomlinson Black owned the market share. And I didn't have a name. We had had Arizona Clientele Real Estate, and I had had Grace Properties, which was a boutique company
Sure.
where we listed gated communities around golf properties. And so when I came here, I had no name. And so I went with Tomlinson, and it was wonderful. Tomlinson Black was great, and we were doing new home subdivisions and resells. I think I still sell 78% more homes in Spokane Valley than any other realtor,
Okay.
because that was my start, and kind of the Valley girl. And then we've branched from there. I went to Century 21 when John and Ann Butler were coming over from Coeur d'Alene. I had heard so much about John and Ann that I wanted to meet them. So I gave them a call, and we met. And before they built the building in Liberty Lake, they hired me.
Okay.
And I picked out my corner second-story office, and away we went. And I wanted to know what it was like. What did a national company do for my sellers? I thought it was an important question. As a practitioner, I need to experience
Sure.
things so that I can really, truly have experience in what I'm explaining to clients. And so going with Century 21, a globally recognized real estate name, I learned some of the aspects of it. And really with the internet, you can be an independent broker and still have all that international coverage.
Yes, you can.
And so when my boys, and I had promised my kids, being an entrepreneur and a business owner, it takes a lot of your time. And so I had promised my kids when I moved up here that I wouldn't start my own company until they graduated. And so in 2011, the boys graduated in June, and I started Stimulus Realty in September
Okay.
of that year. And so we've just been going strong ever since.
Good. Well,
Yes.
well, quite a story. So you've been in real estate, and what we're here to talk about, Grace, is something that I know is close to your heart, and you have a lot of purposeful passion around. And it's I was enjoying listening to you explain it to me, something I really hadn't thought about, kind of a new concept, but a concept that, as you were explaining it to me, it just made all the sense in the world. So it's called the resource stop. And I'm just going to kind of let you tell us first kind of the 30-second, what's the resource stop? And then I want to know what started you on this road? Why this direction? So what's the resource stop and why the resource stop?
Okay. So Ken, the resource stop is kind of the Mobius for real estate. It gives a non-obligation home So home ownership, home that has been set up as an opportunity for people, sellers, buyers, the public, to walk through and learn so it's an informationally based walkthrough real estate house.
Okay.
It's not an office that they walk in and see a realtor sitting in an office. They walk in and they actually walk into a kitchen. They walk into a living room. And in each one of these rooms, we have set up displays that is informationally based to empower and educate them so that we have more confident sellers knowing what their obligations are legally in order to be able to sell and what the processes are. And then for home buyers, being able to walk through and educate themselves so that they're more confident and their eyes are more educated as to what they need to be looking for in a home.
Like a workshop.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So where did this come from?
Well, when you've done a
Things
job
you were seeing in the field,
Yes.
where you're like, gosh, this is just a missing piece. I'm seeing people make the same mistakes, or what fed this?
Yes.
Okay.
Listening and
Yeah.
watching and talking to my cooperative brokers.
Sure.
And seeing a need in the marketplace and filling it.
Sure.
It was funny. I would always drive down upriver because I love that view drive. And this house kept showing up. And it was like sparkling in the side of my eye. And I had no reason to look over there. It was just a plain house, craftsman, old. And so and it's on the corner. And I'm just driving, but it always kept catching my eye. So one day I just pulled over. I thought, what do you want, house? And so I pulled over and I went in the back and the door was kicked in actually. The Hub Zoo signs were sitting in the mudroom and it was open. And so I started walking through it and it was foreclosed on and it had been sitting there for like 3 or 4 years. And while I was in there, one of the neighbors came over, wonderful neighbor. Neighborhood's amazing. We have amazing neighborhoods in Spokane and wonderful neighbors. And so they came in and they started talking to me and was telling me the history of the house. And I had heard about the first owner was a preacher locally, an Italian, and it was in what they used to call Little Italy. Actually, is where the settlers came in, and the majority of them were Italian.
Really?
And yeah. And so I started to hear all this, because every neighborhood has a story,
Yes.
and that's why we have the districts that are so cool in our area.
Right.
And so it just started that way, and I thought, well, I'm going to buy the house. Obviously, I'm supposed to.
Okay.
And so we bought it, and then people kept saying, well, what are you going to do, flip it? And it's like, no, I don't think so. I don't know yet.
You didn't
You
know?
know? I
You
didn't
bought the
know.
house,
I
and I'm
didn't know.
not sure what I'm going to do with it.
I have no idea. We're just going to wait, and I'll find out.
Okay.
And so we just were open to what it needed to be. And as the pieces kept coming together and the more we worked and put in that sweat equity and that vested interest that I'm a big believer in, and the more the story of what that house is supposed to be presented itself.
Gosh.
And so here we are today, and we're excited to open, and we're excited to have our fellow realtors come in. I want all the Keller Williams agents in there, all the
There's
agents.
a lot of 'em.
There's a lot of them, and I want all of them over there, and many of them are my friends.
Yes.
And I want them in there, and I want them walking their sellers through before they list, and being able to be in this kind of like non-confrontational, no attachment home,
Sure.
so that they can walk through this, and then when they take them back to their house, walk through their house with a keener conversation, and then be able to sit down, get the listing, and do the things that are necessary to put a house on the market that is going to flow through our
Right.
sales process easier. Home buyers, if they're working with an agent, I want them to come walk through the house, educate that home buyer. And then when you go walking through open houses or scheduled appointments, it's going to be a better, more positive, more informative experience.
Okay, so this is the resource stop is a location open to everybody. It
Yes.
sounds like
Yes.
real estate professionals, buyers, sellers.
Yes.
So let's say I'm a consumer, a buyer or seller, and you mentioned earlier you have a kitchen, a dining room. Okay, so I walk into the kitchen. What am I going to learn? Because I'm sure it's not. This is a sink. It's probably not that, but what am I going to gain from coming to the resource stop as a prospective buyer?
You bet. Okay, so prospective buyers, the number one thing that we're getting right now is we have limited inventory. So supply and demand are seriously impacting the values in our neighborhoods. And so when you walk through homes, your chances are you're only getting one view before you have to put it in a competitive offer. When you're walking,
in this market,
yes, in this market. And no matter what, you still need to be informed,
sure,
right?
Absolutely.
Because that creates confidence. And so when you come walking through, we're going to show you things like where your cleanout is. Because you need to know where cleanouts are for your sewer so that we can do sewer scopes. I'm a big believer in doing sewer scopes before you buy a house. We have Orangeburg. We need to know some of the things associated with this home.
Sure.
And not just where it's set, but what's affecting it around it and under it and over it.
Stuff you can't see necessarily.
Yes. And so we show where that is so that when you go walking through a house, I want you to see where that cleanout is.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the main water shutoff? I want you to know where the main water shutoffs are. I want you to know where the one come in that services the home, and then I want you to know, do we have shutoffs for the sprinkling system, the outdoor irrigation system? Do we have those? Where are those at? I want to show them where the electric panel is. I want to have them see, does it have a main shutoff, or what do we have to do to get the power shut off? I want to have them look for carbon monoxide smoke detectors. I want to have them look at where are the P-traps? How am I going to access my plumbing? You know, things are not built to last like they used to be. They have shorter lifespans.
Absolutely.
And so when we put in new shower valves, those shower valves have a shorter lifespan. And when that starts leaking, how are we going to access that?
Right.
And so we've actually cut openings, and then we have access panels to it so people can see how they can easily do this if the home that they're buying or have purchased, or if they're a seller, we don't have it yet, how we can get to that so that we can access the things that need to be accessed for seasonal maintenance, for preventative maintenance, for routine maintenance, and then for upgrades. We talk about different countertops. What does that do to our indoor air quality? We talk about indoor air quality. We talk about things like mold, radon, lead-based paint, asbestos. We talk about these things so that not scary and not in a disclosure. Here, sign this disclosure.
Right.
I want you to know what it is. I don't want you to get an e-signature, not read any of this documentation, and then just sign, because it takes you right to where you have to sign before even reading it. I want them to be educated so that they kind of know these things. I want them to know the jargon of real estate, the basics of it. I was talking to a first-time home buyer the other day, and she said, "You realize you're talking Spanish to me, right?" And I thought, that's right. To you, it is Spanish. To me, it's just a language I've known for 30 years. But to you, it's Spanish.
Yes,
So,
and I'm getting the flag from our producer. We need to go into our first break. So
all right.
We're going to roll into a break, and you have a lot more to say, and I have a lot more I want to hear. So I am with Grace Chiquette with Stimulus Realty. I am your host, Ken Sax. You're listening to Real Estate Talks. We'll be right back with you.
To help you be safe, Washington state law requires you to call 811 2 full business days before you plan, for example, to dig, drill, plow, pull from, or pound anything into the ground. Be prepared to provide the operator with the correct address, cross street, and a description of your work. You must mark the dig area with white paint. The operator will inform you of the utilities notified of your impending excavation. Wait for all their marks. Be safe and dig with care.
Welcome to a new kind of talk show, Spokane Talks, where you find news, views, and conversations that include respect for opinions, facts, and diversity.
Spokane Talks, Saturdays at 8 a.m. on Fox 28.
Welcome back, folks. Ken Sax. You're listening to Real Estate Talks with my guest, Grace Chiquette with Stimulus Realty. We're talking about one of Grace's projects. I'll call it a project called the Resource Stop. A fascinating story about a small piece of property Grace purchased, not really knowing why, but Grace wanted to purchase it, and it's turning into this. Well, we used the term Mobius before, and I'm not sure of a better way to describe it, but almost like an educational workshop for prospective home buyers and sellers, but also real estate professionals. So I love the idea around the education, because we need to educate. We need to educate our consumers, right? And, that turns into knowledge, that turns into confidence, that turns into less issues and headaches, and helps set the expectations, which frankly just eliminate a lot of problems if we just do that. So I love how proactive you are. I love the passion behind what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I love working with and talking to passionate people. It's something that stands out to me. So where I want to pick up is, we were talking about how you show shower valves, say that fast 5 times, show shower valves, and, hot water heater straps and things like that.
Yes.
And how the life expectancy is so much less than what it is now. And that is so true. I remember growing up, we had the same refrigerator my whole childhood. Mm-hmm. And now it's like every 8-9 years they seem to go out, and the places that sell them say that's done intentionally.
Yes.
So I was then thinking, gosh, going through this, the consumer would come away with, hey, I can make that repair down the road, where had I not gone to the Resource Stop, I would just immediately call my friendly neighborhood fill-in-the-blank plumber, electrician. So does that happen? Do you see that happening?
Yes. It really is all about vested interest.
Sure.
And so vested means that we not only have skin in the transaction, in other words, money. We've put money down. So we have a down payment, or we have whatever. But we have a vested interest. The more you get vested, the more you do things. Take a look at my nails. The more you do things and get involved in it, the more your confidence grows, the more you feel you can do more.
Sure.
And the more that you get to be a better homeowner. The better homeowner you are, the better neighbor you are, the stronger our neighborhoods become, because we're connected now.
Right.
You're outside, you're doing things, your neighbor comes out, they're doing things, we're communicating, and that's another aspect that we're going to be doing. We have to have preparedness in the event of a disaster, in the event that there's just things that happen.
Sure.
And you talked about earthquake straps. Well, when I tell sellers, when we're going through and I'm doing a listing, I say, sellers, you need to do, oh, that's just the silliest thing. Well, it's not just for the fact that we're preparing for an earthquake. We're protecting that natural resource, which is water. Because if something did happen, we have a lot of water if you have the tank.
Right.
We have a precious resource there that might help your family through a dire time that water would be needed.
Sure.
And so that's one way to keep that in an upright position. Plus, if it falls, we can have a lot of other things that can happen, a lot of additional damage.
Sure.
So we get to a little bit more of not just what the rules and regulations are for sellers and buyers and things like that. Why is that a rule? So we get a little deeper, because the more you understand, the more you're vested, the better it's like, if you just hear a rule, we don't like to hear rules. But if we understand the purpose of the rule, the intention of the rule, then it makes more sense, and then we can dig into it.
Sure. Education is key. And I've been working with people long enough, as have you, and I know how people are. Their default is they want to look at it and be right. So if you mention, say, earthquake straps, and I don't understand what they are, it's difficult for somebody naturally to say, I don't understand. Can you tell me? Instead, that default is, oh, those aren't important. We don't need to deal with that.
Right.
Because people want to look at it and be right. Instead, I don't know what I'm talking about, and I need the education. But we're not very humble naturally, which is too bad.
Yeah,
so I definitely believe in the educational piece. And I know something you wanted to talk about today was this open house walkthrough.
Yes.
So what is the open house walkthrough?
So,
and why is it important to me?
Sure. So you're a buyer. and you're working with a realtor, and you have gone over some of the basics when you hired that realtor and you signed a buyer broker agreement. They kind of talked about what the process is, and right now you're between saving, searching, and e-signing, right? And so what this is this is a time that you can come with or without your realtor.
Okay.
And just as you would see a flyer, you know, a point of sale sign, and you see the little, whether it's a balloon or whatever, and the arrow pointing to an open house, well, we'll have the same sort of a thing, except instead of selling that house, we're providing you information in these displays, and you can just walk into each room. They have various, it's a easy walkthrough display, just like Mobius.
Do I have to buy a ticket? Do I go online?
No.
Spokane passport?
No.
How do I get in?
No, just walk in.
Okay.
Just walk in. And then you come in. We'll usually have 2 people there. And you just come in and you can go through the rooms. And then if you have questions, we have QR codes so that they can scan it. And it takes them to additional videos, and they're all from significant. It's not like whoever YouTube video.
Right.
These are significant videos.
Legitimate.
Yes. Educationally based, not selling anything.
Right.
And then that way you have this information, and then you feel a little bit more empowered, and you feel a little bit more confident, so that when you do go through these open houses of homes that you're actually looking for to maybe purchase, you're looking for a little bit more than just what are the countertops, what's the space in the bedrooms, what's an egress window. What are the size of an egress window? We showcase that downstairs, and then we show you what.
I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday.
It's really important, though.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And then we have the code there so that you can see what it is. And then we talk about...
And why is it important?
Exactly. So just various elements to ownership that really are under-talked about, that we are going to begin to have good communications about.
You know, and it requires us to slow down a little bit, and especially in this market, but set the market conditions aside, just to slow down because we are moving so fast and people are moving so fast. And you've mentioned e-signatures a few times to where, you know, we draft this contract that binds a buyer and seller, and we are agreeing to it simply by click, 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 and I haven't read a darn thing.
Right.
And I love how we are in this scenario slowing down. But think of the information, consumers, that you are gaining by going through this process with your resource stop and your open house walkthrough. It's a win-win all the way around.
And those are my
Nobody
favorites.
loses.
No one loses.
Nobody loses.
But really, our job as a licensed professional is to provide that. You know, we're the source of the source.
Sure.
And so the resource stop is a source for you to utilize to your benefit.
Right. So we have about 2.5 minutes left.
Awesome.
Where is the resource stop?
Okay.
I want to go.
Yes, good. And I want you there.
Okay. Is it
All right.
open now?
It is.
Okay.
Well, what we're going to do is the hours are a little fluid right now.
Okay.
Saturdays, so most home buyers and sellers are thinking Saturday, Sunday, because they work during the week. And then they have kids and they have all these extra activities kids have. So Saturday from 9 in the morning until 1, it will be open for a general walkthrough.
Okay.
And then we're going to come up with a couple of other days.
Okay.
But right now, Saturday for sure, from 9 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon.
How do I get a hold of the resource stop?
It's just
and where
opened,
is it?
and then it's right above SCC. So Spokane Community College Education Center, right in the heart of Spokane.
Can I call somebody and ask for directions?
Yes,
or is
yes,
there a way
you
to get a
can.
hold of
You can. So 509-993-0039.
Okay.
Or just go to Facebook page, Resource Stop, on our Facebook page.
Okay, resource stop.
Yep, and then it'll have the hours. Or Stimulus Realty. I mean, it's all out there. Or Grace Chiquette.
Sure,
I mean, Google
sure,
it. You'll
sure.
find it. The address is 3304 East Euclid Avenue. So just east of Market. And it's just north of Spokane Community College.
So it's open, I mean, not this very second, but it is open now and this
Yes.
weekend, and you
Yes.
have
Yes.
somewhat established hours, but it's a place I could go to now
Yes.
if I'm in the market now and I want to go.
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
Yes.
We have about a minute left. Any parting comments or suggestions?
Come by, Keller Williams agents and all of our agents. Come by and see us. We want to share great dialogue. We want smarter homeowners in Spokane. We want a connected Spokane. We're growing, and this is the time to have this type of dialogue so that our communities continue to come together. Watch for our safety workshops. Again, we're going to be talking about ways that, in the event of a problem, how can we have our neighborhood strong and prepared?
Sure. And not only smarter home buyers and sellers, but I like the idea of smarter realtors. There's a lot of information I know that realtors are going to walk away with. Gosh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
So I love the idea of that. Grace, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Well, I'm always your friend.
This has been fascinating. I always say it's one of the greatest things I love about doing this show, because so often I just sit back and I learn and I listen, and I just love that about this show. Cool. So, folks, we are wrapping up. Again, my guest, Grace Chiquette with Stimulus Realty. I am your host, Ken Sax. If you want to visit us online, SpokaneHouseHunter.com. We put the .com in our name. It just makes things easier. SpokaneHouseHunter.com. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Real Estate Talk is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Real Estate Talk is sponsored by SpokaneHouseHunter.com. Ask Ken a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Spokane Talks